2016 StarCraft II World Championship Series, or better known as WCS, is a year-long event in which the 2016 StarCraft II World Championship Series, or better known as WCS, is a year-long event in which players from around the world showcase their skills in the flagship of StarCraft competition. During the year, players collect WCS points, which represent their regional standings. 16 of the highest-ranked players will compete at the WCS Global Playoffs towards the end of the year. This leads to the WCS Global Finals held at BlizzCon, where a player will be crowned the world champion. There are two regions in which players seek to compete and accumulate their WCS points: WCS Circuit and WCS Korea. WCS Korea features the world's finest StarCraft players and represents the highest level of competition. Players compete in two renowned leagues: the Global StarCraft II League, GSL, and the StarCraft II Star League, SSL. Season 1 and Season 2 champions of GSL and Star League, and an additional 4 players from the WCS Korea standings, will represent Korea at the WCS Global Playoffs. WCS Circuit differs from its Korean counterpart, as players travel to compete in a variety of weekend tournaments hosted across the globe. Similar to Korea, 2 champions of the year, with an additional 6 players from the WCS Circuit standings, are chosen to compete against WCS Korea. Together, both regions combine to form the largest StarCraft tournament of the year, held at BlizzCon in Anaheim, California, where players look to claim the title of 2016 World Champion.
저는 항상 노력했던 선수, 그냥 항상 제가 어떤 상황에서도 항상 최선을 다하고 진짜 후회 없이, 그리고 제가 노력한 거에 대해서 결실을 맺은 선수로 기억에 남고 싶어요, 후배들한테. 네. 바둑을 제가 진지하게 열심히 했었거든요. 그래서 프로까지 해보려고 했는데 약간 제가 성격이 쉽게 질리는 성격이어서 그냥 재미가 없었어요. 그냥 제일 쉬운 이유는 재미가 없었고, 게임 같은 경우에는 지금도 그렇고 예전에도 그랬지만 계속해서 흥미를 제가 느끼고 있기 때문에 이렇게 계속 할 수 있는 것 같아요. 제 친구들이랑 그 대한항공 스타리그라고 옛날에 스타원 할 때 김정우 선수랑 이영호 선수랑 대결했던 게 있었어요. 그때는 취미였거든요, 제가 게임 생활이. 근데 딱 보면서 와, 나도 저런 선수가 되고 싶다 하는 생각을 제가 김정우 선수를 보고 딱 받았거든요. 그래서 그때부터 아마 프로게이머가 진짜 해보고 싶다라는 생각을 했던 것 같아요. 부모님한테는 아무래도 얘기하기가 쉽지 않았고요. 그래서 좀 힘들었었어요, 많이. 예, 근데 열심히 하기 아니고. 삼성 갤럭시 일단 제가 2012년 상반기 드래프트 때 입단을 했고, 한 이틀 동안 팀원들과 연습 경기를 했는데 제가 다쳤어요. 전패했어요. 그래가지고 그때부터 약간 프로의 벽을 느꼈고 진짜 열심히 해야겠다는 생각이 그때부터 되게 많이 들었던 것 같아요. 저는 그냥 연습만으로 극복했던 것 같아요. 그냥 연습을 되게 많이 하는 편이라서 항상 제일 일찍 일어나서 제일 늦게 잤던 것 같아요.
You can really see the effort that he puts forth behind his game and all the practice he's put in, because he'll do things slightly different from other people, and he'll bring out these new types of strategies and styles suddenly to catch people off guard.
아무래도 2015년에는 그냥 뭘 하도 안 풀렸어요. 약간 삼재라고 하거든요, 한국에서. 그때는 그냥 그런 시기였던 것 같아요. 그냥 뭘 해도 안 풀렸어요. 그런 생각 되게 많이 했죠. 그만둘까 하는 생각.
You know, Solar did have a really dark period last year. It was really disappointing, actually, because I had high hopes for him last year to do very well, and then he just kind of flattened out a little bit. It was a tough year, but it's definitely a really good thing that he has stayed in, because this guy is a very clever and creative Zerg and super hardworking, and from the times that I've gotten to speak with him, quite a charismatic guy.
이렇게 잘 이겨내서 지금 이렇게 우승도 해보고 블리츠컨에도 가보고, 네. 그래서 그때 되게 잘 버텼던 것 같아요, 지금 생각하면. 버텼을 때는 아무래도 그냥 팀원들이랑 코치원들의 좋은 말을 많이 해주셔서 그게 원동력이 됐던 것 같아요. 저는 해외에서 경기하는 것 자체가 되게 편해요. 일단은 거기 분위기도 굉장히 좋고 뭔가 부담감이 없잖아요. 그냥 제가 지면 제가 지는 거니까 딱히 그런 거에 부담감이 없어서. 그리고 부모님이 옛날에 그 외국계 회사를 다니셔가지고 영어를 자연스럽게 접할 기회가 되게 많았던 것 같아요. 그래서 엄마가 되게 좋아하셨어요, 영어를 하는 거에 대해서. 그래서 그 피를 제가 이렇게 물려받은 것 같아요. 아무래도 저는 최근에 우승했던 스타리그 7세트 그 저글링이 뛰던 순간에 기분을 아직까지도 못 잊고 있는 것 같아요. 그냥 전체적으로 그때가 제가 게임하면서 제일 긴장됐던 순간이었고 그리고 끝나고 났을 때 제일 기뻤던 순간이기 때문에 그 순간 자체가. 근데 아마 이번 블리츠컨에서 바뀔 것 같아요. 제가 또 우승을 할 거니까 아마 이번 블리츠컨에서 바뀔 것 같아요.
An emotional victory that we saw Solar in his most recent Star League run. He is the recent Star League champion. And it was a really memorable moment, and we've talked about it over the last couple of days as well, is that GSL and Star League Season 2 was some of the most memorable StarCraft memories we should have in a long time, Nick. You were there, you know, watching, casting these games over the last 6 months or so. What are your thoughts on Solar?
I gotta say, watching him win and just seeing the emotions flood out, it was so powerful. I mean, this is why I love what I do. But it's going to be really interesting to see how he actually manages to perform here today. I think this is going to be a pretty close match for these two.
Yeah.
But Solar should come out on top.
But Todd, you've been a seasoned and veteran pro gamer over the years. Obviously not so much anymore as you've turned into the stylish commentator you are today. But you know, you've had ups and downs in your career. You've been through slumps. You've been back up and top. It's difficult to get out of slumps. And obviously when you do, and you know, you compare it to what he's done when you do win after coming out of a slump, it's an amazing feeling.
Oh, definitely. Especially, I think there is always doubts. You're always gonna, depending on who you are and you know your mentality. I think a lot of these pros as well, they definitely think about retirement at times, some more than others. So to be able to come back and prove to yourself and to everybody that you can still do it, it's definitely one of the best feelings possible.
Yeah, and he is a talented Zoo player overall. Just he's a great guy too.
Yeah.
He's lovable and.
I was gonna go there, Sean. Why do you set me up like that?
Sorry.
I was gonna go there. You know, he's not only great, but he's super lovable and likable. I think the first time I met him was actually here in California, 2014, one of the Red Bull events back then, and he just came up to me like fluent English, like, "Hey, Rotterdam, I'm Solar. Nice to meet you. So happy to be here." I was like, "Wow, hey man," and like he was just super fun to hang out with, and he impressed me a lot during that event already. Had a great run, and ever since then, you know, I've been following this guy and. Definitely had his ups and downs, especially I think in the beginning of Legacy, he was kind of like beyond, right? Like he won everything, all the online tournaments. A lot of people were in agreement. I think Solar is the best Legacy of the Void player in the world right now.
Right.
But then when it truly mattered the most, he wasn't able to show it just yet. You know, GSL Season 1, SSL Season 1, but it's super cool that in the end, he got it together and he was able to get this amazing victory.
It was kind of cool. He actually started out so strong and then dipped down. And you see that a lot whenever there's a new expansion where somebody gets it and then everybody starts to catch up. But what was so awesome about this whole year was he actually went down and then came all the way back and ended up winning. So really cool.
He's such a good player too. He's kind of able to do anything he wants when he's playing Zoo. Obviously when he's in form, I mean, when anybody's in form, you can do that. But Solar right now is playing at the top of his game again, Todd.
Yeah, it really feels like when you watch him play, something clicks, right? Like he's always gonna hit the great injects and always gonna have very good macro, but at times it has just felt like maybe he wasn't really sure what to do in some of these matchups, whereas now again, like he's playing really, really good. But I mean, it's going to be a ZvZ here up first, and it's a pretty tough group, so it definitely needs to be on point here no matter what. If he just plays at 50% for some reason, if he's not feeling confident enough, if he's not enjoying the local food, like all of this could play, so hopefully he can play his best and show us a good performance.
There's massive names at this tournament. Beyond, Dark, Solar, I mean, the Zest, you just keep on rolling the names off. But Elazer isn't really a name that you hit as, you know, a tournament winner, one of the big names in this tournament, Kev. But you believe in this guy. He is rising to the top slowly in the European scene, if not there already, perhaps.
I think if you talk about a very good, consistent, and improving 2016, I think you really talk about Elazer. He started to become really one of the better players in Europe towards the end of 2015, when he started cracking like a top 8 at the Home Story Cup, or even a top 4 back then. And you know, he even asked me, he's like, what do you think is going to happen WCS next year? Should I keep playing? I was like, yeah, of course you should keep playing. I was like, I don't know everything, but if you just keep playing the way you do, I was like, I think you're going to be successful next year. And he looked at me, he's like, really? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he's done it like since the beginning, just not really a big victory yet. He didn't win a WCS season championship, but he's that guy that a lot of the other European pro gamers, they rather avoid him. Nobody wants to play Elazer. And even very recently, I mean, I casted him in Kiev. We casted the series together against Showtime. Decisive 3-0 over Showtime. Like, that says a lot about his strength.
I think he's speaking at the right time here. Like, as of late, is really when he's looked the most impressive in that WESG qualifier for Poland. He beat Nurcho in the finals with a 3-0. And then in the actual event, he beat, I think, Showtime, Namchar, but then this time around he lost to Nurcho. But that was in the finals of the European qualifier with a lot of very good players. Like, Harstem was there. So very impressive recently.
Yeah, he's legit. He's not one of the guys that has one good run and like somehow sneaked into BlizzCon or something. Elazer legitimately is one of the best players in Europe. Is he an underdog in this group? Yes, he is. But is he like, are we going to see something like we saw earlier today? Like, is this Beyond This Violet Part 2? Absolutely not. Like, I think Solar has an edge here, but it's ZvZ. It's a lot harder to truly make the difference. And like you know, like Johan brought up as well, in all the national qualifiers, he keeps having to go up against Nurcho. So obviously he's going to have solid ZvZ and great ZvZ understanding.
I was going to kind of talk about that a little bit now before the players are ready, is that I know Elazer hasn't really warranted the spotlight on him compared to a lot of other players, but he's also been shielded away from it a lot, naturally, because of the way that Nurcho is always right in front of him, the way that Snoot is always looked upon, Showtime's looked upon as the top European player. There's not as much pressure on Elazer compared to these other players, and he's almost as fierce as they are.
I feel like with Elazer, we're going to be seeing him in the middle of a growth spurt as a professional gamer. You're totally right. There's not that much pressure, right? He's not exactly like a household name like Beyond right now, or Nurcho for that matter. But this is a really good experience for him to come out here. His opponent's really good, and you know, ZvZ is a little bit weird. It can fall apart really fast if you make one or two mistakes. So there is a chance that maybe he'll actually do pretty well.
There is a chance there. You said it. You know, he plays a lot of ZvZ Zergs. Anything you want to bring up here before we get ready for this? Anything extra?
Other than that, when it comes to his likeliness of like loving ZvZ or not, there were times where I felt that he really did enjoy ZvZ, but then at a certain point he just played so many ZvZs over and over again that he told me, I think it was at one of the Chinese events, like Elazer had a very busy year, by the way. He's been everywhere. This is not new to him anymore. Obviously this is the biggest stage that he's played on, but he has been pretty much everywhere. And he said, like, at first he's like, yeah, I like ZvZ, and then he's like, no, I hate it. He's like, all I do is play ZvZ everywhere I go, whether it's in Poland, in Europe, or even at the international events. Please give me another matchup. But at the end of the day, he can get all these games, you know, under his belt, and it should give him some confidence.
You were casting, right, at the finals when he played against Nurcho over in Ukraine. Like, what did you make of these games? Like, if you...
I think he got a little bit unlucky in like one of the crucial games. I think he was down 2-1, which, you know, that's not... And I think like then that fourth game is always super crucial. And I think he had an okay opportunity to win that game. Something went wrong, and then suddenly instead of 2-2, you're 3-1 down. And then it almost feels like it's over. But I think he was kind of satisfied anyway. You know, like he won 6 grand. He already qualified for the grand finals. Like, I don't think that was a defeat that's really going to haunt him.
But one thing, before we send it to the game, we have to just acknowledge again that Solar is a champion. Solar's just come off a massive win. That there's no way that, we can obviously look at the strengths of Elazer at the moment, but Solar, he's the type of player that Elazer has not played against recently at all, that type of level.
This is like his final exam almost for ZvZ. He's got a whole year of cramming, studying, and now we're going to see how he does. This is
like you taste
the AP credits here.
Sending everybody back to school.
That's right, yeah.
All right, go on then. Really fast predictions then. Tasteless, let's begin with you. Which way is this going?
I think it's going to go with our Korean player, Solar.
Solar 2-1.
All right.
Yeah, Solar 2-1.
All right, Solar across the...
Solar 2-0. Take it away.
Solar across the catch. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to go to the commentary team. Real fast break coming up. But when we're back, it's time for Solar versus Elazer.
Welcome to BlizzCon!
This is one of the coolest things you're ever going to see in your life.
For Azeroth! We invented some brand new characters.
When we first did BlizzCon back in 2005, we had no idea what to expect.
Are we ready to begin the costume contest?
It's so much more than a game in a box. Have a great BlizzCon!
Of the storm. Prepare for Heroes Brawl, the new game mode that breaks all the rules. Rated T13.
This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in
See the full animated short at playoverwatch.com.
The StarCraft 2 WCS Global Finals is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
Hey guys, welcome back. It is the WCS Global Finals. Martosis alongside In Control, of course. We're bringing you the ZvZ Elazer going up against Solar. What are your thoughts? We heard Rotterdam. Elazer's obviously like the next coming, but what do you think?
Those guys on that broken couch are pretty darn smart. I actually have to say, as silly as it is, I'm not going to be contrarian. I agree with most of what they said. I do think Solar holds an edge. I just don't think that Elazer is nearly the underdog that you would look at on paper and be like, well, he's facing a top-notch champion in Solar. And he's just some guy from Poland. That's not Nurchio. There's no way he can do it. I think you're wrong. I think he can.
All right. Well, we'll see if you are right about that. Over here in the mid-right-ish area of Dasan, it is Solar. He's, by the way, doing a 12 pool. Dasan, man. Yeah. In that top left-ish, middle-ish area of Dasan, we have the Polish Zerg. It is Elazer.
And people will be relieved to see that 17 spawning pool going down. Of course, there's more to it than just that, but a lot of times you will see a player go for like a hatch first, a gas, several drones, and in this case, on such a short map like this, you can be in a lot of trouble. But he's going to spare himself a little bit of agony for now. And the hatchery does go down, as we can see here, at that gold base, which is kind of a pseudo-natural. There's a safer base behind that, but if you can get the gold up and going, you're in fantastic shape.
If you can hold on to that gold, it's pretty sick indeed. But a lot of Zerglings already on the way. The thing is, as you said, with that 17 pool coming up, it doesn't seem like this should do too much damage.
Yeah, and he sees it coming out at the earliest point, too. I mean, to give you an idea of how small this map is, look at that. The Overlord is at risk of dying to a queen. Of course, it's not going to. This earliest of early pools is the only thing that even remotely threatens it, so Elazer's going to want to pull that back, but he sees the Lings. They're already here. They're going to go to work on that hatchery. Now, I'm excited to see what this does mathematically. There's some like hardcore Zerg pros watching. It's like, Jeff, I know the first 9 minutes of this from this point forward. I don't, so I'm kind of excited. Here come the drones, though. Yeah. He's going to try to zone out the Zerglings. Zerglings need to kind of hide behind this. He's just buying time. This hatchery went down a lot earlier than his opponent, so if he can hold on to this, that's where he gets the advantage.
Yeah, he certainly does from it, but let's not forget, a lot of drones have been pulled here. 7 drones in total, which means actually 4 more drones are mining for Solar. So if he can keep this up, even if he doesn't get massive damage done, that is a herd economy.
And the Queen's going to come down here to try to offer what she can. She's a nice tank, does deal some range damage, so can fight behind the line of drones and Lings. You're not wrong, Artosis. The drones are actually going to try and alleviate that pain and start going to work on the hatchery, but they're going to have to be careful getting picked off. Excuse me. They do kind of escape through there. Queen wants to engage, by the way. She's happy to start the fight because any damage done to her is most likely not going to result in her dying. And it looks like Solar was able to be pushed back here. Now, to your point, 16 workers from Elazer to the 18 of Solar, so definitely some economic damage was done there.
Yeah, and Solar looking pretty good now. Gets to pull back onto his own creep, has his own queen here as well. That Overlord actually taking a lot of damage. He really, as you were saying before, wouldn't mind if these Lings come in to attack the queen, so he's going for it all the way, and in fact will snipe this Overlord just barely. Doesn't quite get away, and that is a strong snipe, and he keeps going.
This map is so weird, guys. I mean, he was like just trying to keep that Overlord alive, backs up, and whoop, we're at the natural again. So the Lings are going to come on over. Queen going to get behind there and try to defend. Second Queen coming in, just kind of secure the advantage. It looked like there were a few more Lings for Solar. And without those Queens, maybe able to edge out a little advantage. Okay, the Queens are going, they want more than just the Overlord.
Yeah, he is pushing forward with double Queen right now. This is reminding me of the beta of Wings of Liberty.
This is crazy. That's a huge commitment. He sees those two. He knows. He just has to hold here.
He just won't have as many larvae over time. He will have some transfuses. A lot of Lings still coming in, but Elazer really didn't slack on that either.
A really crazy risk. The first Queen does get a transfuse off, but gets surrounded and dies. The second Queen looking to do the same. Both the Queens of Elazer have taken no damage. Supply is about the same. So for right now, the harm hasn't really been felt. More Lings coming across, and now a worker advantage for Elazer. Both players have the gold, so they're swimming in money. But those, I mean, look, there's no ejects. Another Queen.
There's so little gas going on right now. Solar with none, and with speed done. Speedlings beat Slowlings. I imagine that Elazer is just going to sit here and make a lot of Lings for a little bit and see what he can get done with them. Going up, surrounding this Queen. Solar does have a lot of Lings coming out, though.
Yeah, she tried to escape, but you can. As you said, those Speedlings aren't going to let you do that. Lings trying to back up here to get on creep. They're going to have a slight speed boost. Of course, both players enjoy that. And yet another Queen pushing this out. I'm actually getting kind of weirded out. Like, did they get the colors wrong? Is this, is it Elazer that's in the red getting weird? It's not. Solar is, like, just selling on this idea of aggression. And it's not, I mean, what's kind of funny, though, is you look at the supplies, and they're relatively the same. So, like, I feel like Solar's made some weird choices, but it's been enough to keep him in this game, at least.
Yeah, this is really funny. Look at that. Solar continues to just push forward. He's trying to hold at this choke where the speed advantage isn't really going to come into play. But as the Lings come down, those Speedlings are going to be able to get on top of the Queens.
Yep, the 4 Queens are going to push forward here. They're on that creep now, so they're moving at a decent clip. The first Queen gets quite low. Transfusion is going to keep her alive for a little while. Eking forward some Zerglings. They're still slow, by the way. If you look at that production tab, there's no speed coming in. Solar, that is where Solar is at a disadvantage, I guess, isn't that kind of slight tech upgrade. Now Lings coming in to alleviate Elazer's Queens that are on duty. Hasn't lost one just yet. Gets that last second transfusion. And it's just a back and forth.
Yeah, it certainly is. These Queens all using all their transfusion energy, and 2 of them go down for Solar. That is a really big deal. A fifth Queen actually coming in right now as well. They almost get a kill.
Wow.
But Elazer looking fantastic here.
These look like Archons in a Warp Prism if you watched yesterday. Another Queen on the edge of death. Solar is now fought back up against that natural. And it's GG called. Elazer takes a wild one on a wild map. It got a little bit weird.
That's a pretty big win to take game number 1. And here's the funny part, too. It felt like, well, it definitely was Solar who came in with a very set strategy that he wanted to pull off. And Elazer saw it, reacted to it, and ended up winning. And that's something that you normally don't see. That's, again, we're talking, this is the big story of the year where the foreigners have bridged a huge gap against the Koreans. Normally it's the other way around. And you'll see this weird all-in held. Solar did not even start a gas that game.
You know, and that might be, I guess, where we start to say, because I thought it was a weird choice to shove the Queens over there. I didn't think Elazer made any particularly super amazing move to make that move look as bad as it ended up being. Well, it didn't end up being that bad, I guess. That's putting a little bit too much emphasis on it. But the point is, I think Solar did either know that gas was being mined and that he was just always going to be behind in that way, or he felt like he because of his early pool, was behind. But as you watch that game, it was a couple of drones, and that's it. But committing the 2 Queens like that, that was when it became, well, now you're committed. There's no going back from here.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting as well, the fact that he just completely skipped any gas. I look at that, it's like, well, actually, the way that they're playing where both of them have the gold, they're so close to each other, and it's such a thin map in that middle area that I guess speed actually really didn't do very much for Elazer there. Like, Solar was fighting pretty much toe-to-toe, but Elazer did get the better economy. He did have that earlier hatch, and eventually when he had the Queen advantage over on the other side of the map, what are you going to do?
You know, I
against
agree.
Mass Queen lane?
Yeah, I mean, speed wasn't like the determinant factor in why that went the way it did, but for me, I think, again, when you try like a timing attack or an all-in, it does become a little bit binary where you're like, okay, well, I'm behind, so I have to make a hard choice. We get stuck on that. And I feel like with speed, the prospects of Solar having any kind of hopes of continuing that game beyond that gets a little bit weird because there are back entry points. Speedlings do have the ability to run around.
If the attack ever stops, he's pretty dead, like you said. So it's like, well, I guess don't stop the attack.
That's what I think he kind of realized there.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are ready. Getting to the next map. It is going to be Galactic Process. Solar, the SSL champion, on his back foot. Here we go.
You know, Artosis loving it, having a great day 2 here. Every chance to get to commentate with you is always fun. It's the best 10 minutes of every tournament I've ever been at.
You know,
I don't
right?
know what that is. Every time you and I commentate, it's just
They
like,
give us ZvZ all the time. It's
It
actually
is true.
good. It's borderline weird.
We're like the
It's
weird
actually
ZvZ
Apollo.
pair.
It's he's the mastermind behind everything. We're just puppets.
Absolutely.
Up here in the top right, our red Zerg down a game. It is Solar. And his opponent in the bottom left, our Polish Zerg with a great hold. It's Elazer.
Galactic Process, a bit more of a standard map. It's been kind of funny coming into this. We thought there was a couple maps we would just almost never see, and then they've made their way into a couple of these series, these short series. We've had a few 2-1s, but just best of 3 so far. We're not into the main tournament just yet. And it is going to be a hatch first from both these players, kind of settling things down. There's like a couple ways to approach a matchup where both players aren't necessarily super sure of each other, and that's like all out aggression. I don't know. Let's just decide now. Or there's the like, let's not fight forever and just see where we're going with this. So they're going to kind of reverse, at least for now. I mean, it's obvious it could still get pretty aggressive here.
Yeah, it's always funny to see players that really haven't played. Like, for instance, Stats for Snoot, right? That was on Apotheosis.
Very passive.
That was a really funny one because they're both like, okay, let's just like max out on like 4 bases and then we'll look at each other.
It was a
that
funny,
was it.
yeah, and even like the between the lines context there was funny, where Stats that game got butchered. Well, guess what? In the next 2 games, he's like, you know what? Let's not play ultra passive and let it get late.
He's like, oh, you're pretty good at macro. You hit your injects and spread your creep. I think I'll go after you here. But in ZvZ, it's definitely a little bit different. You know, Solar, he tried that very aggressive build. I saw him in the chat afterwards saying, wow, that was a really good defense. You know, handing it off because who knows if Elazer has even played against out in DOS on one of the least played maps.
Yeah, for sure. And we have to comment on this. This is very strange, kind of a gasless opening from Solar. You can see on this map how if you don't tear down those rocks and with just slow lings, it's pretty hard to get past those rocks. There's rocks there and rocks there. And if you can sneak a queen actually there, if you see it coming, you can actually delay that a little bit too. But the point is, otherwise, you have that ramp right there to defend as access point to these 3 bases. So it's kind of cool that Solar's doing this, because I'll tell you what, one of the things that in the past, at least for sure, has distinguished Koreans from non-Koreans is that even down 0-1 in a best of 3 where they really don't want to lose because then they're 1 match away from being out of this thing, they will still take risks. They're going to play it a little bit different. The opening from Elazer, by the way, is kind of the more standard opening. You can do that on most maps, and that is your ZvZ opening. Slightly slower 3rd hatch, but faster speed. But Solar, he's not gonna play out of his game.
Yeah, and you know what? I generally would prefer a Lasers type of opening, but I do like the idea that Solar is passing off here because, as you said, you know, there's just 1 entrance as of now. It takes a long time, especially for Zerglings, to break down any of those other entrances and get in. And by the time that happens, Solar should be ready. So looking at the game, I would have to give just, you know, a slight advantage to Solar as far as these build orders go.
Well, we'll see how that translates. He tried for a scout, and as our wonderful observer pointed out there, died maybe half an inch away from getting the relevant information, which is that there is a gas and speed is being upgraded. There's a lot of lings coming out here, by the way, but they are unsupported. So there's 3 drones on that production tab and a roach horn for Elazer. The speed lings with this wall off that we can see from Solar at the top of that ramp should not do much at all. But the nice thing for Elazer is that's not such a number that it's like, well, now you're just super dead because you're all inning. No, he's not. This was like a feel me out kind of number.
Yeah, and in fact, that will force Solar to be a little bit defensive. Like, for instance, do you necessarily want your evolution chambers right this second? No, you don't. He's not even starting upgrades quite yet. So this is just extra drones that had to be made into a wall to make sure he stays alive. But again, you know, his economy is slightly stronger. He's got that very fast 3rd hash, the extra larva, and the extra minimum patches.
You're exactly right. Kind of the dance between the 2. He had more drones, but because of that forced moment in time, he's going to have a few less more drones, but still more drones. Now, I like Elazer being active here. He's going to work on the other 2 options of the 4, excuse me, to get in
4 ways in.
No Overlord here, so this won't be spotted or there, which is a little bit of a misstep from Solar. This is not like, again, this is not the beginning of the end. There's not 600 lings behind this, and it's like, oh my god, he doesn't see it coming. But if you have these avenues open to you, and you can start doing things like roach run-bys or just speed lings throughout the game, banelings, that kind of thing, that is where you start to get the mid-game strength going, and it's nice to see Elazer taking that initiative.
Yeah, and in fact, those rocks are getting pretty low. He has spotted that with the Queen, but that means he's going to have to start making units, and roaches have been started here for Solar, but if speedlings are coming in from 2 very far away points, even though he's got creep connected, the speedlings are going to be a lot quicker than roaches to deal with it.
Yeah, and you know, as we can see everything, and we know that there's no threat behind that, what I like about working on the rocks there too is that sends out some misinformation to Solar. Now, Solar has 2 Overlords down at the bottom of the map that are kind of seeing the normal avenues of departure for Elazer, so he's reasonably sure there isn't an attack coming, but I still like these Lings being active as opposed to just sitting around. And those rocks will eventually get opened up there, so we'll have to see how that develops as the game goes on. He's just going to use it now. Pulls in.
I don't see any reason that he shouldn't run in and try to do a little bit of harassment. You know, kill a few drones off and hopefully run a couple Lings in the main, get a scout, see exactly what the tech is. And here he will see it's quite a few roaches that are out.
That's actually huge. To see the roaches coming out at this time right now is a pretty big deal because there is 2 different kinds. Well, there's the ebb and flow of roach production. You don't want to just... Ideally, you make like 80 drones or 75, and then it's just pure roach forever. But that does get. Did it get scouted?
Yep, that's a changeling right there. Not a Zergling, but a changeling.
Oh, dude.
Impersonating a Zergling.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Yeah, so that's really important, and he does start in that Hydralisk Den. So definitely in like a head-to-head, a face-up fight, something like that. You know, Solar is going to have a stronger army overall, but the Mutas will give map control completely over to Elazer, and that's hard to deal with historically for the ground player.
You know, but as far as that map control goes, there is only just a couple Overlords out there. He already does have Hydras kind of being produced and upgraded, whereas a lot of times in that situation you see them being reactive. It's like, oh no, you have Mutas, well, I'll make a Hydra Den. So that kind of prolongs that map control period of time. I do have to agree with you at this point. I do like Solar's position. He's up an army. They're about equal in drones.
And the Mutas are popping out. Some roaches being made here for Elazer as well. He's got to have a little bit of bulk, I guess is a good way to put it. You know, if you have speed roaches and you run in, your opponent only has Mutas. Well, technically the Mutas will beat him, but the roaches will get a lot of damage done first.
Ideally they would. Hydra's going to push this back so they don't do any damage. Good 4th base timing here from Solar as well, because that is kind of one of the other effects of a Muta opening is sometimes you can get it to a point in time where they can't take their 4th too soon. But as it is, Solar's actually just right up there with him, and man, fairly neck and neck with these 2 guys. Supply is kind of reflecting that. A Lurker Den being more tier for Solar.
I think he is sniffing out the switch into roaches here, and if you make a Lurker Den and your opponent doesn't have like mass Mutas, or even if they do and you get a lot of anti-air with that, like you're just going to force an extreme late game play, and that might be an area that Elazer is not as comfortable with. I haven't seen many Zergs that are really.
Good concave here, though. We could have a pretty big fight. It's actually a very good concave for Elazer. Slight supply advantage, and he does have the fast reinforcements. Mutas kind of pumping back and forth, trying to occupy their attention. This is just before Lurker, so it's a bit of a weird timing here for Solar. He's losing a big chunk of his army, and Hydras are okay, but without the buffer of roaches between, they actually get kind of weak, but he is able to reinforce there as their bases are fairly close. And more to your point, with Lurkers, they will dominate that low ground. I think there's a bit of a prediction going on for Solar where he's saying, you know what, if you did go mass Mutas, Lurkers wouldn't be super great. They're not like mega expensive, so if you have 3 of them, it's not, you're not just like instant dead. But I think you're right. I think he's saying you're not going to stick on Mutas. I'm not seeing any more come out. And if you do just go mass roaches, well, guess what? Hold or not even hold, like 6 Lurkers mow that force down.
Oh yeah, like roaches just can't be Lurkers. It's actually like just as silly as when you see Stalkers try against them, but at least Stalkers have blink, right? They might be able to spread, but the roaches would be completely eaten. And the last few Mutas, you know, they're flying around, seeing what they can get done. But overall, I look at this, and it's a better, higher tech for Solar, but Elazer has a massive army.
He's attacking right now, though. There's actually no Lurkers here. It's a huge concave out for Elazer. He just kind of surprises him, jumps on top of the Hydras on the high ground. They're going to have to back up, but the low ground not going much better.
Yeah,
Solar's trying to hold, but there's no Lurkers here.
That was a fantastic move. He ran up and sniped the Lurker eggs in a matter of seconds there, and without the Lurkers suddenly, the macro of Elazer is really kicking in here. So many roaches. In fact, more coming in for a flank. Roach Hydra not good against that type of play, and it looks like he is going to be held for now.
Yeah, he's going to get pushed back, but he enjoys a supply advantage, and this is where the worker difference kicks, and he now has 11 more, because if you're being aggressive in a ZvZ, it's kind of up to you to choose, well, okay, I'm going to sneak out a few drones here, or I'm going to continue to resupply. If you're defending, very few Zergs ever have the gusto to be like, I don't think this is getting resupplied, I'm going to sneak out a few drones.
Well, you know, Solar being a champion is someone that's going to be able to try things like that in the future, hopefully, here.
Maybe.
Because
if there is a future.
Well, I see a Lurker burrowed. So as far as I'm concerned, you need about 400 supply of roaches to get through that from games I've played and seen. So
You know what else is good too by Elazer being aggressive is he saw lurkers on the other side of the map. If they burrow and they're sieging his fourth and he's like, oh, you have lurkers? He can get into a lot of trouble. But remember those mutas, they push back the Overlord. The Overlord still does see this attack coming in, but this is where this map can be tough.
He's really starting to outmaneuver his opponent here. And, he actually does have detection that comes in, snipes that lurker quite quickly, but this is a strong army from Solar. Some great corrosive vials coming down from Elazer, but he will be pushed back.
A decent fight at first, and this is actually where this fight could be winning him. Oh, I say that as he
That's a
commands in.
misclick right there. Like, he is seriously misclicked with his army.
Or it might be an all-army command move click. We'll talk to Rotterdam about how bad that is later, but for right now, it's just bad for Elazer. He's actually down in supply. He was able to get those drones to the fourth, but that move command, gosh, if that ruins this whole party for him, I'm going to feel terrible.
Yeah, that is a sad way to lose a game, especially when all he needs is this victory and he goes on to that winner match. But now the push is coming into his fourth base, and with the lurkers here, this is extra hard to hold.
Yeah, he targets down the first two lurkers. That was really good, but there's still hiders behind these roaches, and I just feel like Solar turned this around magnificently, is now pushing in, and he's got the bigger concave. He's threatening the fourth base. And it does not look good for Elazer. In fact, he's going to tap out right now, and holy Toledo. This game went from a 25 supply advantage for our Polish player who is looking to get that kill stroke, and then just one move command and maybe a little bit of a miscue, and all of a sudden Solar says, sayonara, you're out of here.
You know, it was really good play from Elazer early on, but as you said, you know, that move command, that's going to be really, really weak move. Like,
well, it's a mistake. It's not like he chose, you know.
The AI on this map particularly changes throughout the game because whether you've killed rocks in certain areas, your different move commands and attack move commands and stuff will actually move things through different areas. I think lots of us have lost games like that, so
could happen.
Kind of a big flub there, but I gotta say, Solar is bringing a very different style here to ZvZ today. I wasn't really expecting to see this type of play, especially out of him.
Well, you know, myself not either as well. Well, that's a weird way to say that, but let's just go with it. But I was reading the live report threads yesterday. A lot of people were talking about these games. A lot of people watch a lot of the Korean StarCraft, yourself included, of course, but I guess Solar is very known for his Hydralisk. He likes them in ZVP. You'll see him in ZvZ. And I did like the timing of it. We kind of talked about how it jived with the mutas. He did it not necessarily reactively, but even preemptively, although he did get that good scout. But then they just, going into lurkers is a very safe base. Like if you face Ling, Ravager, and Baneling, okay, well, lurkers are still good there. If I'm facing Roach Hydra, lurkers are still good. If it's just roaches, lurkers are still good. So I like that as kind of a safe glue to hold everything together.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, I mean, this could have been an Elazer 2-0. Solar out of here, and that is not what anyone predicted. I don't care how biased for foreigners you are.
Yeah, well, he should be feeling good going into Game 3. Definitely has his chances against this guy, a champion of the SSL. It is Solar. And of course, the man of the hour, one of the big underrated underdogs of this tournament, our Polish Zerg, tied up 1-1. It's Elazer.
And now it's gut check time. Make no mistake, guys, Elazer was ahead. By all metrics, he just definitely was. And I think if he takes that fight, kills a few drones, has a few roaches over at the fourth like we saw, and is able to disengage, we certainly do not see Solar just steamroll across the map and win the game.
Yeah.
If he does anything like that, he's worried about him having his own lurkers or some kind of weird defense that he can't break, and then all of a sudden those other units are floating out on the map, come back in and finish him off. It's just a very different game in that situation. But Elazer made a mistake, and now I want to see how he recoups. He's kind of one of those guys that when you hear him talk about StarCraft and when he's being social, he's always a little bit down on himself. He says everything kind of with a straight face, very Eastern European sense of humor, and he is actually a very funny guy. But he'll say like, "Oh yeah, I stand 0% chance." I was on the ride with him over here, and he's like, "I'm just here to collect check." It's like, but then we can see it's like, man, no, you're not.
Yeah,
you're here as a deadly weapon.
You know, some people truly are very humble like that, and you know, the thing is, anyone looking at the group, right, would not put him as one person who come out. We have Solar, who's a champion. We have Nurchio, who's generally considered the best foreigner Zerg.
And Kryptonite 2, Elazer at least.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Beats him quite often just recently in that other finals. And of course, we have TY, who's like, okay, you're probably the best Terran in the world, right? So you would never expect him to get out, but his play is good. He's been underrated. And I kind of like the dual story, by the way, of Elazer and Petit Drogo both getting in here.
Yep.
And, you know, they were both very borderline, where it looked for a little bit like neither would get in.
Yep.
But especially because they are both players who have risen up, especially this year, and they're practice partners. And this is actually a funny thing that you sometimes see, especially in foreign StarCraft. Oftentimes, people who practice together will raise at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the reason they're practicing together is because they're similar skills.
And they're talking and sharing.
Exactly. And that's like, if you get a couple motivated guys together, like suddenly they'll just start busting out and doing well all over the place.
Then you get a house, you get a few more motivated guys, and now we're talking some good soup there. Good scout coming out here from Solar. He's going to see that fast throw, but he's doing something in kind back at home. If you look at that production tab, you can actually see they're being very similar in pretty much all respects. But to your point, yeah, and what's kind of cool about this year's BlizzCon as well, and not to go too far with this, but at least thus far, it's been nice. These are 2 replacement players, and they're making a splash. Snoot gets eliminated by Petit Chirogo. Elazer, we're only 2 games in, so again, he could just completely flop and be like, I'm out of here, and he like rage quits and throws water on the production, stuff like that. But probably not, and he already has given a good series. He had a very good defense against Solar in Game 1 and Game 2. He kind of let it slip by, but that's pretty impressive.
No, it certainly is. Like, in previous years, you would expect Solar to lose 0 games to foreigners here, right? And, like, this is just the first match for Elazer. We have no idea how he'll go forward. And actually going up with quite a few speedlings, but Solar does have enough and takes a nice concave there, chasing them back towards that third as well.
Yeah, this is kind of the slap fight that goes back and forth. It can get dangerous if one player makes a mistake or overcommits or something like that, but right now Elazer's behind a few in Army, but actually down 1 drone. But like I said, it's just kind of a back and forth, feel them out right now. It's good to have your Yulings out there.
He's actually making 7 roaches suddenly, so that could turn into a full-on attack, but right now Solar poking back in. Of course, don't forget they do have Overlords that are close enough that even if roaches start walking out, that's enough time that they can kind of react to it.
Ooh. A little bit awkward there with the Queen out of position. It's unfortunate. She will get picked off. Single roach is found now. This base is not in danger of dying, but getting the Queen was a nice pick off there, especially since Solar, by the way, if you look at that production tab, still making drones, but is also making roaches, which is very good because, again, the roaches being discovered this half the map means that Elazer's probably in a little danger of winning this game right now, but don't tell him that. He's actually pushing out no drones on his side, all roaches.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what it is that he can get done.
I think it's not going to be much. I mean,
the thing is, when you see it this early, generally if you want to pool units and attack across, what you have to do is pool more than what they can produce all at once.
Yeah.
Because then even when they see it, they'll produce, and then you'll get there, and then you still have more.
Well,
but in this
he's down
case,
8 drones, and his army supply is similar. If he had like a 20 supply advantage, I'd be like, okay, that's where the exchange happens, but not today. There's no Bailey Nest. There's nothing. There's no X factor here. So he's going to push in, see that number of roaches, and be very sad because meanwhile on the other part of the map, the Lings were trying for something, but there is replacement Lings coming out.
Yeah, Elazer rallying quite a few Lings. In fact, still making more Lings as well. And, in fact, going to start making a few Ravagers here. This is something you definitely can see where the Roaches get traded into Ravagers, and then you try to do some swift maneuvers with the Lings, maybe surround some groups of Roaches and throw down those Biles.
Man, he's really going for it. It's been nothing but Lings behind this, so there's going to be kind of... The Roaches that are there are eventually going to be made into Ravagers, or they're just going to support as Lings do come out. Nice little pick up of the fight there. He gets a Ravager. Second one being worked on, so all of a sudden it's 4 Ravagers versus nothing.
He's doing a decent job right now. More Lings still flooding across the map here, but Solar is making more as well.
Did he over-drone? Because it's just Lings coming out behind us. The first Ravager's going to kind of sloppily live. Exactly as I was going to say. Yeah. Excuse me, Elazer's going to park in here. Drone's being pulled. This is where the real damage could potentially be done. Solar is just caught off guard. My bad, guys. ZvZ still throws me for a bit of a loop because guess what? Elazer up 15 supply, butchering the drones. 15 of those are gone. He might end up getting cleaned up here a little bit as the Roach's health does diminish. There are Lings coming in through the back, but if he sustains this, he just wins. But even with the damage done, he's enjoying quite the lead.
Yeah, now he's the one that's actually up in drones in 7 instead of 5. So that does end up working out for him. He pushed pretty far forward with those, which allowed him to get the drones. But when Ravagers get flanked, they are not long for this world. So with it cleared up, what does Solar do from here? How does he force the comeback when down 7 drones? That's painful.
Yeah, he's down 7 drones. The kind of big thing here, too, is he actually had to use his queens to defend, and he lost, I believe, all the queens. So he still has one of the thirds, so I guess all but one. There we go. We can see that from our lovely observer. Lings do rip into here, and they're going to make this a nuisance, because right now, you ask, what can Solar do? Well, he wanted to drone up, but if Lings are going to show up and kind of, again, diminish the army that he does have and kind of show, hey, you're droning up, well, I guess I'll just keep making stuff. Or Elazer can just work on that advantage too with his economy as well, and that is what he's going to do.
Yeah, starting to drone up himself, getting an evolution chamber. Can start some upgrades, maybe get a little bit of a wall going, because of course one of the ways that a Zerg can come back is getting over there, mixing it up with your drones a little bit. You know, things definitely can go wrong when speedlings get into your base.
Oh yeah.
But
and now Solar down a little bit of supply, so we're not ready to call this completely over yet. He has been powering some drones out. There are going to be ways that this advantage is felt, though. Solar's going to have to be really on top of his scouting to see how much of an economy he can rebuild here, and seeing the drones at the third like this should tell him he's in decent shape. No queen there, also kind of a good sign. That means that, you know, you're not getting those huge injects and just really exploding your economy. But it's little things like, well, if you look at that production tab, you can see +1 range attack being upgraded. Neither player has a lair, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Solar has one.
Yeah, I don't think they have layers yet.
So that's kind of one of the only differences right now. The slight drone advantage, which now, by the way, is, and we're not going to call this back and forth, because we'll go back and forth forever. Solar actually has more drones now.
But they are a
the
little
army
bit later,
difference of the
and
laser.
very importantly, as you were saying, that +1 ranged attack. That is definitely something that gives quite an advantage, and in fact, it makes those Zerglings really, really much weaker because they get two-shotted by those roaches. So that's an advantage for Elazer, and you know, we expected this after that Ravager attack did some significant damage, and I like the way that he gets that edge. And he keeps that edge by doing something like getting an additional upgrade that Solar is probably going to skip on to try to catch up.
A bad choice. We do see 24 some odd lings coming out to join the others. So potentially kind of a counterattack option. That Solar's very active with those type of units. If you're going to move out in the map and attack me, fine, but these 20 some odd lings are going to go and ransack your third. Right now, Elazer's, yeah, he's going to do that. He's moving out. But he sees the forces of Solar moving out as well.
Yeah, it looks like Solar wants to go Mass Ling Ravager. This is kind of a way that we sometimes see Zergs play in Korea, where it's just like, okay, you know, I'm going to hit Corrosive Biles and have Lings everywhere. And
With
that's
a surround on you.
Yeah.
Holding your spot.
You know, every now and then you'll see a giant cloud of Lings surround Roaches, the Biles fall everywhere, and it just blows up the army. This is mostly Roaches for Elazer, so it could end up working, but Elazer has a strong army.
And he's not going to get surrounded for right now, and those Lings fighting across those lines do not trade very well to, you know, what you were describing earlier on. The +1 is in, and it looks like Elazer, that supply difference is just kind of growing right now. He needs to avoid the Corrosive Biles, because that would be the AoE damage that would lose this fight for him, but guess what? That's in the past. He's pushing forward. He's on top of the Roaches. The Ravager's going to try to run from here. Any kind of supply Lings coming out? Yep, there's 20-some Lings coming out for Elazer. If they can surround the remainder of this force, that's lights out, and all of a sudden Solar is in the bottom.
Which is crazy. Elazer, this big underdog, suddenly showing that his ZvZ is amazing, despite all of the hard times he's had against Nurcho in the past.
Well, I mean, we just saw Nurcho almost take out TY.
No, I know.
Makes sense.
This is a wild world we live in, where the foreigners are absolutely playing up to and sometimes beyond the Koreans.
They're playing out of their minds. Solar's going to try to make a final stand here. The Queens have come up, but there's just not enough. Trying to land those Corrosive Biles, he needs to land just epic Corrosive Biles, but I think that's just a heart and a dream that he's got right now. His units are being destroyed, and there's the GG. Elazer 2-1 over Solar.
Dude, he looked great the whole way.
Get Elazer to Star League. Because you know what? Actually, I think the win transfers over to him. That's how it works in StarCraft.
You know, oh yeah, that's it. It's like, oh yeah, and then some guy in Ladder's like, I beat Elazer this morning. Okay.
Then you're the champion.
You're
sir.
the champion.
Awesome job by Elazer. He actually, what's kind of crazy about this series to me, it was just 3 games because it went 2-1. But in all 3 games, it was like Elazer's game to lose. He defends the all-in, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, you know, he's a little bit behind. Solar made the wrong decision, shoves the Queens forwards. Excellent defense from Elazer, and he wins. Game 2, he's ahead basically the entire time. He has the more aggressive tech choice to kind of keep Solar a little bit pinned back. He's winning the fights. He's harassing better. Makes a mistake, loses. Game 3, man, he looked good.
He looked really, really good. And in fact, you know, ZvZ, this is the important matchup of the group. And now we've seen Solar and how he wants to play. And with how well Elazer has played that, I don't think Solar was like holding things back.
Dan,
but now he has to go up against Nurcho.
I was just going to say that. Prepare yourself. Can you imagine Solar goes 2-4 or 1-4 and is bounced out of this group? Do you think anyone called that?
Well, certainly not Solar, who in his Signature Series video was saying he was going to win BlizzCon.
You can't win it when you lose, I think.
Yeah,
but I want to hear from this Elazer kid. He's actually really funny, and Smix has been doing an amazing job with these guys. Let's go over that interview
after this commercial break.
After this commercial break.
Wow, what an impressive victory. Cannot be emphasized enough. Elazer with the 2-1 victory over Solar. Elazer, I just have to ask you straight away. You just defeated the SSL Season 2 champion.
Yeah, well, ZvZ is just like this. I think the matchup is quite random right now, so like I wouldn't be surprised with any score if I 2-0'd him, if he 2-0'd me. I really don't see a difference. I think we both played well. It just this time I was a bit more lucky.
Well, after the win on Game 1, obviously you seemed very happy. Game 2 even was looking pretty good for you at the start, but it eventually slipped away into Solar's favor. So what do you think went wrong in Game 2?
Yeah, well, I knew Solar knows how to play the lurker style, and I myself played the style a couple of times, but I always thought that just Master Traveler kills that, so I tried that. And Mita, I thought I was in a really good position, but Solar somehow held on, and yeah, I need to watch the replay because I don't know what happened. Like, I'm not sure why I lost, actually.
Well, with the way that these groups work, GSL format, it's actually going to be, you're now one match away from moving on to the quarterfinals. But of course, a very tough opponent in TY stands in your way. And I know that you are close with Nurchio, so I'm wondering, do you feel like you maybe have a chance on getting revenge there?
Yeah, well, I thought TY is totally unbreakable. Like, I thought we'll both get 2-0'd, he will craft the group, but now that I saw Nurchio took a map up from him, and I think Nurchio made a lot of mistakes, so maybe if I'm on top of my game, maybe I can win. At least, I think I will take at least a map.
So, and I'm sure you watched that series, so after watching that 2-1, did you come up with some ideas of strategies that maybe you can use against TY, or have you talked to Nurchio about that series?
Not really, but I think I'm more prepared for TY than Nurchio is, because Nurchio only prepared for Zerg, and like mostly for Zerg, I think. And I actually played a lot versus Terran, and I played versus Major, who plays pretty similar to TY. So yeah, I think I'm maybe the best versus TY style from the European Zergs right now. So maybe I have a chance.
All right, well, congratulations again. And in what must be one of the biggest upsets of the WCS Global Finals so far, it will be Elazer that is moving on to the winner's match of this group.
Thank you very much, Smix. Who would have thought the second Polish player, or maybe even top 10 European Zerg player, has just taken down the Season 2 Star League champion. A big victory there for Elazer as he moves through to the winner's match, which will be played tomorrow. So looking forward to that. I'm back now on the couch here with my dear friends, Rotterdam, Todd, and Tasteless. We did have a three-way prediction for Solar to win. And I know that, you know, it's not nice being wrong, but this must be a happy kind of feeling to see Elazer perform well up there.
Yeah, it was a very fun series, I would say, overall. Elazer played extremely well, and I really was leaning towards Elazer, but I was like, man, I'm going to be wrong again. It's going to be like, God, he just always predicts the non-Korean to win. Like, he doesn't know anything.
He's biased.
Like, I was like, yeah, so I mean, like, can I really predict against the guy that won SSL Season 2, and in the final he beat Dark, arguably the best Zerg in the world? Can I really do that? I was like, nah, it's probably going to be close with 2-1 Solar, but even the game that Elazer lost, like, I felt it wasn't a lucky best-of-3 victory, because even the game he lost, he was looking really good. He got himself in a great spot, and I thought it was his game to lose. And
it very well could have been a 3-0, some might say.
In a best-of-3. Only Todd ever did that against me.
I mean, I was so confident in my prediction. I don't know, guys.
I heard you scream out 2-0,
2-0. I'm like, oh, look at me, guys. And I'm wrong. Who's laughing now, guys? Elazer's laughing now because that was a really impressive series. He was really on top of it. Game 1 was kind of funny, but the game 2 and 3, really impressive stuff. I guess we're going to have to reevaluate how we're actually looking at this player now.
What are your any additional thoughts here, Todd, on the way that he played the series out?
No, it was just great in general. Like the hold in first game. In second game, there was a little bit of a move command. I was like, I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but maybe he was starting to feel the pressure. I've talked many times about how, you know, like when you're winning and you're about to close out like a big win like this, you start thinking like, oh my God, like imagine the command, some Team Liquids. They're going to be so good. I'm just 2-0ing Solar, but no, maybe he got a little bit nervous and then threw it out of the way. So gonna have to be careful not to let that happen.
But I find that almost even more impressive, or that makes his victory even more impressive. The fact that he was up 1-0, that he was close to winning the best-of-3, 2-0, that it slipped away and that he still just recollected himself, calmed down, got his composure up, and he just performed again in game number 3, which wasn't an easy game because I felt that Solar, his build was strong. I felt Solar was doing exactly what he wanted to do with the links, buying time, had that minor economic lead, but 6 drones is actually massive in ZvZ. But Elazer is still able to execute his attack and just get it done from that point on. I thought it was super impressive.
This kind of changes everything too. Like now, Elazer, he's gonna face TY in the winners match, and then Nurcho goes up against Solar in the losers. Nurcho or Solar is gonna go out in last place in this group. We know it's stacked, but we would have expected Elazer for sure almost to be in that that match.
And just to talk about that a little bit, is in the interview now that Elazer just said, he said that Nurcho didn't really practice hardly at all for Terran players, obviously TY, but he did a lot for Zerg versus Zerg. Does that now, knowing what we just saw from Solar, put him in a bit of a difficult position, knowing that Nurcho's obviously practiced and is ready for this?
Yeah, this sounds very scary for Solar here, who again, like he's one of the main guys here, he's one of the favorites. So I mean, it's hard to say without having seen him play, right? Like obviously the games could go very bad for him, but that attack, by the way, like I didn't think it was going so well for the longest time, but somehow I think he just barely had enough. You know how like in ZvZ, if you have 2 more roaches than your opponent, you're gonna win the fight by a landslide. It kind of felt like that to some extent, and then when the drones started coming in, it was the beginning of the end for Solar.
Elazer's micro is just very on point. I mean, on Dasan Station as well, did a great job with his queens, moving the herd queens to the back, and then obviously Solar is like, man, that low HP queen, I really want to get it, but if you overextend, you lose too many units, but if you just let it sit there, it's going to get a transfuse. So Elazer was just on the money with his play, and that obviously boots very well for him, even though that winners match is still going to be one hell of a task.
Yeah, and we may even see the 2 Polish players play each other come the decider match as well, depending on obviously how that Elazer TY game goes. Any final thoughts here, Tasis, on this series?
He passed the exam. A+. He's on the dean's list. Honor roll student. Congratulations, Elazer.
It was a remarkable victory. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We are going to head to a very quick break as we prepare ourselves for the first elimination game of Group C. We're going back into Group C, and it's going to be Violet versus Deer. It's just around the corner. Don't go anywhere.